Welcome to Close Up Television. I'm your host, Jim Masters. We're here on location in Napa Valley, California, to tell the story of somebody pretty special. His name is Jayson Uribe. He is a noted firefighter. He's also a professional motorcycle racer, and he's an expert witness as the president of Code3 Consultations. I had an opportunity to interview him on our Close Up radio series, and we were so fascinated by his story, we wanted to come across the country to California to dig in a little bit deeper. So here is his story, Jayson Uribe on Close Up Television. Hey Jayson, good to see you again. Of course, you were a guest on Close Up Radio. We had an opportunity to have a terrific conversation on Close Up Radio, and you invited us to come out to California, to Napa Valley, to see you in action and to meet some of the folks in your world and come here to the fire department, which I think was really cool. Thanks for having us come. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. It's been a pleasure so far, and I'm excited to keep going.
We've been really fascinated by your story at Close Up Television, so really wanted to come here to see you again, do your thing. Also fascinated by where we're standing. Tell us about what goes on here at the fire department.
Yeah, so here we are at the Deer Park Volunteer Fire Department. We're part of Napa County Fire. We contract out with them. And this is a very significant station because it's a perfect halfway point between the upper and lower ends of the valley as far as north and south. So for us, we get a really good mix of structure fires, car crashes, stuff like that on the valley floor. And then as we go up more into the mountains, we get the vegetation fires, the forest fires, stuff like that. So for us, being firefighters here, it gives us a really well-rounded kind of education, so to say, where we get experience in pretty much every type of scenario that we could possibly encounter. So for us, being here is a huge pleasure.
You know, I think it's really cool because we're tying in so many different things as far as what your expertise and experience is that lends itself beautifully to your expert witness work, which we're going to really focus on with this episode of Close Up Television. Later on, we're going to see you doing your thing with a Ducati motorcycle, which is going to be really, really cool because you're a professional racer, and so you've got that expertise. But here we're going to focus right now as we kick things off with your work as a firefighter. What first inspired you to want to go into this field of endeavor?
When I was about 17 years old, we had a few major fires in this area. And at that time, I was one of those people that was going away, we were evacuating, getting out of town. And I really didn't like that feeling. I didn't like feeling helpless. I didn't enjoy not being able to do anything about it. And that was a big motivation for me to kind of act on the fact that, hey, I've always kind of had this nagging feeling of, like, oh, I want to be a firefighter. Growing up, seeing all the firefighters, seeing all the fire departments and all stuff like that, and being super excited about it, but never really pursuing it. That for me was the push that I needed to go for it. And I had a good friend of mine, Steve Burgess, who's actually here right now. He was a big motivation for me to actually come down to the fire department and sit in on a few meetings and just see how it went. And pretty much from the first meeting I sat in on, I was like, yep, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do. And joined the academy shortly after, and here we are.
So what was it like in the beginning for you? What was the first day, the first week like for you on the job?
It's very different going over, simulated scenarios. You roll up on a car crash and this person is injured. What do? Going over that in a classroom setting versus actually going out and being like, oh, I'm first on scene to a major head-on car crash. What do I do? That for me was a big eye-opener, and that's just taken time, taken experience, and I've had a lot of good teachers, a lot of good mentors that have kind of helped shape that kind of mentality on how to handle the situations. So it's definitely not something that you can do alone. Like I said, I've had some great teachers. I have great people here at the fire department that have helped me get through that, but definitely an eye-opening experience.
Tell us about some of the scenarios you've been involved in. Of course, Northern California has had recent fires of note that we've all heard about. Tell us about some of the experiences you've had on the job.
So in 2020, that was a rough year for everyone, but especially here in Northern California, we had some pretty severe wildfires. And we had two of them in this area back to back within about 3 months of each other. And for me, being a firefighter at the time, I had about a year and a half, 2 years maybe under my belt. And I'd never really been in that kind of, we call them campaign fires, where they're large, they are devastating, and you have hundreds and hundreds of resources assigned to them. I'd never been on one of those before. And again, it was one of those things that we'd gone over in training, but never actually had to go out and perform these tasks. So for me, that was a very eye-opening experience in the fact that basically, like, my life became the fire department. Being a volunteer firefighter, it is a huge part of my life, but I'm not here every day. We get called down, we come and we do our job, and then we go home. But at that time in those fires, we were here solid, and we were fighting these fires 24 hours a day for 14 days at a time, getting all this stuff going. So that was a life-changing experience that's definitely shaped me into a different individual than I used to be, and it's helped me progress my way through life.
One of the things too that I imagine is very important, especially with events like that, is the camaraderie, the teamwork. It takes a team when you're involved in situations like that. Tell us about the importance of the teamwork.
I agree 100% as far as it is a team. Nothing that we do here at the fire department is a one-man show. Everything, I depend on people that are on the rig, probably more than I depend on myself. The biggest thing that I try and focus on is keeping myself calm. The first time I led a crew into a fire, knowing that it's not just my life I'm putting in danger, it's theirs. That was a heart and mouth kind of moment, and something I still think about to this day. I'll be 100% honest, after that fire was out and we were on our way home, I actually pulled over, had to get out of the rig, sat there, and I threw up just because I had so much pressure like built up, pent up in me. And as soon as we kind of got out of that situation and that adrenaline rush kind of came down, it just took over and I had to step away. So stuff like that was a very large eye-opening experience.
I mean, a lot of people deal with stress in their day-to-day living and in their jobs, but this is one of the most stressful. How do you deal with it?
I rely on my family, especially my girlfriend. She is a big, big part of my life. She's my rock. So I try my best to not just like push that stuff away and push that onto other people. You know, that's something that I have to deal with, but having that support structure in place is a game changer. That's night and day. I wouldn't be able to do it without them.
I'm 5th generation female rider in my family. My grandma started a motorcycle safety school in the 1980s. So she ran it with my mom, and now my mom and I run it, and so we're really involved in the safety side of riding. And we kind of tie that all into the expert testimony stuff that helps with Jayson and all that cool information. So having the experience running the school and meeting all the new students, all the new technologies that come in with their new bikes, really gives us a better idea of what's going on now. And so when these cases happen, we can take that knowledge and see how would they react in this situation based on their experience level. More experienced riders may do a list of things that beginner riders don't do that create different accidents. So we can take that experience in the courtroom with us and really have just a better understanding of what happens and why, and what motorcycles react in certain ways, with the business. We really focus on the rider with their motorcycle and having that knowledge too of like how this person interacts with this bike and how it would react in a situation if you were to grab, a bunch of front brake, really helps us, making plans and figuring out what happened in a situation.
So how do you sort of bring in the background as a firefighter into your expert witness work? From my point of view, I think it's fantastic for your clients because it gives them an advantage. We talk about walking the walk, talking the talk. You certainly have done that for a long time. What are some other ways having this practical experience as a firefighter really helps you when you're deducing some of these cases and figuring it all out for the client?
Being involved in the fire department helps me in my expert witness work as far as stress management, being able to take these stressful situations and handle that pressure accordingly without freaking out is probably the easiest way to say it. I mean, it's so easy to come under all this pressure from lawyers, other expert witnesses, the defendant, whatever it might be, asking you these really hard questions, or even if they're super simple, but they ask them in different ways multiple times, being able to take that kind of pressure, understand it, deal with it, and not let it affect you or your testimony, your answers is very, very important. And for me, being able to stand by my work, kind of like in the fire department, when I hop on that engine, I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. I trust the crew that I have with me. I trust the work that we're gonna do is gonna be, top tier, top quality, the best that we can possibly do. Taking that mentality to the courtroom helps me stay focused, helps me just have confidence, have that faith in myself and my work, and being able to trust the people that I've associated with, whether it's on the case, whether it's on the presentation, whatever it might be, but knowing that we tried our best, we did everything that we possibly could to come out to the best conclusion possible is definitely the biggest few things that I take with me.
So what kinds of cases are you actually working on? Are they automobile accidents, motorcycle accidents? Tell us about the different variety.
I specialize especially in the motorcycle side of things because I have so much experience in them, as well as the automotive side as far as, commercial vehicles, passenger vehicles, trucks, whatever it might be. Having experience in all of those fields, especially being able to work with these manufacturers, whether it's Ducati on the motorcycles or whether it's major brands like Mercedes-Benz and the cars, being able to be hands-on with their modern, up-to-date safety systems, understanding how they work and actually helping develop them, it gives me a huge advantage to know what's real, what can really happen, and what in theory on paper should happen. And being able to kind of find that middle ground is a huge plus for me.
So you got this beautiful Ducati bike we're showcasing here, Jayson. Tell us about the bike you have at home.
Yeah, so the bike I have sitting in my garage at home right now is actually a more sports, like racing-oriented motorcycle. And that's when I'm going out to buy a motorcycle, that's usually what I lean to, just because of my experience level and what I use my bikes for. That's what I'm looking for, because that's what I'm going to use it for. So that's much more of a track base. I have racing tires on it, racing suspension, racing brakes, stuff like that. That's what I'm going to lean towards when I go to buy a bike. And that's something that it's taken a long time to get to that point. It's definitely not the bike that I would recommend to somebody that's never ridden one before.
Yeah.
But that's what I have sitting in my garage right now.
Why do you love this so much?
That's a great question. That's something that I've actually asked myself a lot. And I would say the biggest thing about it is more just the freedom. Being able to be on a motorcycle, whether you're going fast or slow, it doesn't really matter, but just being in total control of your destiny, so to say. Like everything that you do has a direct impact on what's gonna happen. Not that that doesn't happen in life, but especially on two wheels, it's just exaggerated. And that's something that I have an addiction to. I love that feeling of freedom and going out and not really knowing where you're going, but just going out to ride. I think that's something it's hard to match, it's hard to beat. And I think as soon as you kind of experience that, it's something that never goes away, and you're always trying to get more of it.
Trying to get more.
Yeah.
What would you say to a kid that's watching right now who's very inspired by your story and says, I want to do what Jayson does?
Do it. Go for it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't try, you don't know. That's the biggest thing that I grew up with, as far as, everybody starts at zero. Everybody starts from the bottom, and you just keep working your way up. And sometimes you only get to level 4 and you're like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, and that's okay, but at least you tried.
Right?
And that's one thing that I'm always trying to focus on in my life, is just try new things. Even if I suck at it, I'm going to keep trying, and then if for whatever reason I'm like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, you tried. You gave it your best, you tried. But if it's something that you're super passionate about and you're like, okay, I'm doing this no matter what, just continuing that process, that hard work, that dedication will get you where you want to be in time. It's just making sure you keep with it and keep going.
Stick to it.
Exactly.
Cool stuff. So how do you find your clients? How do you go about doing that?
So the biggest way that I find clients is either just through word of mouth, trying to get my name out there, whether it's through my website, marketing, Instagram, social media, whatever it might be. But my biggest thing right now is definitely my website, Code3Consultations.com. Just finished that up a few weeks ago, just launched it. So I'm trying to make it available for everybody. I don't want to corner myself in one specific market, especially right now when I'm really trying to grow. So anybody can reach out, whether it's an attorney, law firm, individual client, whoever it might be. I try and make myself available to everybody. The biggest thing for me on a business note is, I kind of like what we said earlier, I stand by my work. I'm much more of a quality over quantity kind of guy. So I'm not going to be the one that's taking on 100 cases a year. I'll do as much as I can to the best of my ability, and that'll be my limiting factor, is just the amount of time that I have to work on these cases.
We hear about witnesses that are in the courtroom. Maybe they were on scene, they witnessed something, they're on the spot when it happened. But then there's the expert witness, and it might be a little bit of a confusion for people. Well, what is an expert witness? Define that a little bit for us.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as far as having the on-scene witness, somebody that was just around, that happened to see this, happened to hear it, whatever it might be, a lot of times those people aren't going to have the actual knowledge to properly decipher and understand exactly what happened and actually be able to put together somewhat of a picture that you can present to somebody else. That's more of just a, Bob saw Jimmy fall down the well kind of deal. They don't know how, they don't know why or where and all that fun stuff. An expert witness is somebody that can actually take that information regardless of actually being on scene, understand it, put together a proposal, put together a presentation, and be able to give that to a courtroom, to give that to an attorney and say, to the best of our knowledge, with all of our research, all of everything that we could possibly put together, this is what we think happened and this is why. And having that kind of knowledge, having that kind of power, so to say, is very, very useful to an attorney who's trying to win a case.
So Jayson, would you say that you're somebody who's always tried to figure out the who, what, when, where, why, and how in life?
Yeah, I'm a curious guy. It might be my downfall in certain situations, but I like to figure stuff out, whether it's me being a kiddo, just taking apart toys, whatever I can find, or with what I do at my 9-to-5 job being an electrician, building these complicated electrical systems. It's something I like. I think about it all the time.
What are some of the things you think that make you stand out? I would say, just again, from my perspective and spending the time with you, having this incredible experience as a firefighter, having this incredible experience as a professional, noted motorcycle racer, being involved in the automotive industry are some really great things that make you stand out. What are some other things you think that enhance your capability of working with these clients?
I would say my biggest pro, my biggest positive is just having this solid foundation across multiple different agencies, so to say, multiple different walks of life, whether it's in the fire department, motorsports, whether it's in just research and development with safety systems, having that kind of base that I can touch on when I need to, when I call up the Firehawks, because I am neck deep in this motorcycle case and I'm like, okay, I know that they have tons of experience with a motorcycle that I'm not necessarily familiar with. I know that they know anything and everything that could ever happen with it. I'm gonna call them and I'm gonna hope that they can give me at least something to work with. And then same thing as far as I have an autonomous vehicle that smashed into a guardrail for no apparent reason. I'm gonna call this company because I've worked with them, I've helped develop this program and see where they can kind of feed back that information, give me something to work with. Having that foundation to build from is very, very important to me, and I feel like that's what sets me apart.
You know, it's really fascinating too, the development and advancements in technology, and you're involved with autonomous vehicles and safety issues, things of that nature as well, as part of your company, Code3. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so with my company, Code3 Consultations, the expert witness side is my bread and butter. That's what I really try and focus on. That's what I enjoy. That's really what I live for doing. That's why I created the company. But aside from that, I also focus on autonomous vehicles and developing the AI, developing the programming for all of those companies, especially in regards to motorcycle safety. I'm a motorcycle guy, always have been, always will be. Yeah. The family I surround myself with, we're all kind of in the same boat as far as we all love motorcycles and we all want to keep riding for as long as we can. So being a part of that movement, whether it's with autonomous vehicles or major brands, major automobile brands, being able to kind of be on that forefront, be on that push as far as, you know, motorcycles are inherently dangerous, especially when they're on the open roads. There is a large risk factor. So being able to help mitigate that risk, whether it's through training, development, you know, me personally going head on into vehicles and trying to see what I can do to outsmart this autonomous car is really what I'm all about.
How do you conduct an investigation to build an actual case for your clients?
I would say the biggest thing is just information gathering, trying to get as much information as I possibly can, whether it's about the vehicle, about the individual, about the scene, where they were at. Any of that stuff is definitely number one on the priority list, because the more information, the better. Knowledge is power. Yeah. That's how you can build your case and really try and figure out exactly what happened outside of just hit a wall.
Is there a particular case that you can call upon that really stands out for you that you worked on?
There's one that stands out as far as being very difficult. Kind of like what we said earlier, I had lots of restrictions, lots of NDAs where I wasn't allowed to go to the scene of the accident. Yeah. I was given a 11-page document, a readout from the ECU, from basically the control module of the vehicle, and 3 photos. And they said, this is what you have, make it work. So for me, that was a very large challenge, kind of going from nothing as far as information is concerned, having to reach out to friends, family, doing whatever I could to possibly try and piece together this case. It took me about 10 days, which for me is a long time just to put together a general kind of scope of what I think happened. But at the end of the day, we did come to a conclusion and we ended up winning the case.
In terms of learning about, becoming an expert firefighter, what are some of the things you learned that maybe you didn't know about before? I mean, when you're a kid and you see a firefighter, they're heroes, they're doing their job, they care, they want to help people. What are some other things you have learned about being a firefighter, what it takes?
I would say the biggest thing that I've learned being in the fire department is just more the medical side of things. I didn't know how involved the fire department is with just medical calls, being EMTs, paramedics, all that stuff. There's so much more than just fighting fire that goes into being in the fire department. I think that's the number one thing that I've learned, is getting more involved with anatomy, physiology, learning how different types of injuries affect people in different ways. Stuff like that, I find it super interesting. I take that outside of the fire department whenever I'm just driving around for whatever I'm doing.
So Jayson, you're so busy. What's a typical day like for you?
That's a bit of a hard question to answer. It kind of changes day to day. But when we are here at the volunteer fire department, most of the time we're either staffing up an engine or we're covering a station if we're not actually responding to these calls. But for example, the last few weeks we've had some pretty crazy weather. So we have been here at Station 21 a lot, just staffing up engines. We'll go on patrols, we'll go drive all around, see if we can find anything, trees down, car crashes, anything of that sort. That way we are here, we're available in case something goes down. Like a great example is this morning, pretty much all of our engines, all of our resources were spread out throughout the valley, trying to fix trees down, trying to get cars out of ditches, get cars out of the flooding, all that fun stuff. So just being around, being available is a big part of the volunteer fire department.
Obviously, being a firefighter, there's a lot of different scenarios to the job, and one is the physical and emotional stamina. How do you maintain that in your life?
I would say physical fitness is pretty much a must as far as being a firefighter here. It's important to be able to lift whatever you need to lift in case you're trying to get somebody out of a car, you're trying to fight a fire, whatever it might be. Having some kind of physical fitness is very important. You don't need to be able to go run a marathon, but you do need to be active. You need to be fit, healthy enough to actually do your job. And then as far as mental, I would say that's trained. That takes time. It's not something that you just get really good at overnight. That's something that I've been here almost 5 years, coming up on 5 years, and I'm still every day trying to get better at. It's just trying to stay calm in stressful situations, especially when you're on the radio. You roll up to a car crash that might be totally devastating, head on, whatever it might be. Being able to get on that radio, stay cool, calm, collected, St. Helena, Station 21 on scene of a head-on collision, major damage, stuff like that. It just takes time, and that's one of those things where having good mentors, having good teachers can pay off a lot.
I've been working with Jayson for about 5 years now, and it's been an absolute pleasure because he is truly exceptional. When I first met him, I had to verify through his parents about some of the stories because just the years and the experience didn't add up. He works 8 days a week, and it really shows working with him. I've never seen Jayson crack or fall apart in any sort of situation. We've been out for days on end with only an hour of sleep per night, extreme heat, physical labor, mental and physical and emotional stressors, and he's always maintained a positive attitude. I've never heard him talk badly about a patient or a situation. It's always been, what can we do next? What else can we do? Where should we be? It's always been a very positive scenario.
I would imagine there's a lot of awards and different certifications that you've earned and garnered in this realm of firefighting and in racing. Tell us about some of those.
I would say one of the biggest honors I've ever had is being able to represent the U.S. overseas in a World Championship level racing league. That to me was being selected as one of 2 Americans that were actually over there at the time. That was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I wanted to do good, I wanted to represent my country, but at the same time it was just an honor to actually get the opportunity and to try my best to improve on that. That was a huge step. That was like a stamp in my notebook as far as, okay, that's good, been there, done that. And then as far as the fire department goes, being able to be Firefighter of the Year in 2020 was really cool. That was a great experience, and 2020 again was a bit of a rough year for a lot of people, but for me as a firefighter, learned a lot, had 2 big fires that I was able to learn from and to get all this experience from. Having those to kind of fall back on for me are I'm very, very thankful. I'm very lucky to be a part of it and trying my best to make them proud.
Do you have an ultimate goal for all of this? I mean, all these different things you're doing that blend beautifully into the expert witness work. Is there a master plan, an ultimate goal that you see with all of it?
I would say my goal, my master plan, is to be able to build a network, build a foundation where I can be a little bit more of a hands-off kind of leader, so to say, where I can establish foundations that can establish kind of home bases and build the company from there without having to manage it directly. That's my dream. That's what I'm trying to work towards. Building that foundation now to have that good, starting point, and growing from there is my end goal.
Why do you love doing this work so much?
I like finding stuff out. I like solving problems. I like trying to come into a situation that maybe not everybody could, and being able to make it work, to find the right answers and to just try and help out the community. There's a lot of people in my life that have helped me out along the way, whether it's been through racing or the fire department or just personal life. And that's something where I feel I can give back to others because I've had so many people give that time to me. I want to pass that on. That's really what wakes me up in the morning. That's why I love it.
I tell you, Jayson, it's been a pleasure spending the several days we have with you and seeing you do your thing and meet some other folks along the way. It's obvious you are very, very passionate about what you do. We wish you continued success and much luck in everything you're doing. It's incredible work. Congratulations on everything thus far, and so good to see you in person.
Thank you, sir. It's nice to have you.
What a fascinating story to learn about how Jayson Uribe combines the worlds of being a firefighter with a professional motorcycle racer into being an expert witness. If you'd like to learn more, go to his website, Code3Consultations.com. In Napa Valley, California, for Close Up Television, I'm Jim Masters. Thanks for joining us.